Hi everyone, so today we're going to do a very quick inquiry and we're going to be taking a peek at the things that wind and water do to affect the earth around us. In this case, I'm going to be using a small sandcastle that I made. It's not perfect, but it will do. And we're going to take a peek at the effects that wind and water have on our sandcastle. And we've also been talking a little bit, not only about quick and slow earth changes, but we've also been talking a little bit about weathering and erosion. So weathering is the chipping away or the changing of the Earth's surface over time due to things like precipitation, so rain, snow, ice, things like that. And then erosion is the process of that getting swept away. Okay, so we're going to take a little peek at that, and I'm going to show you some of the tools that I'm going to use to do the experiment. So if you take a look at my little setup here, you'll see that I have a little sandcastle. Again, not perfect, but it will do. I also have my straw. It's a reusable straw because that's going to pretend to be the wind or be like the effect of it. And then I'm actually going to twist this up. It's going to go into a tube and I'm going to use that as a wind example as well. I also have a little water in my cup here. So it's going to be the same as what happens when the waves hit the sandcastle. So we're going to take a little peek. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take my straw and I'm going to blow on the sandcastle. So here we go. Ooh, and on that second one, you could really see that there's a change that happens, right? So even that tiny bit of the straw, that little bit of wind that I'm blowing, is completely changing the top part of my sandcastle. And if I keep going, eventually it's just going to wear that whole section away. I'm going to switch it up. I'm actually going to take my piece of paper. All I'm doing is rolling it almost like a telescope, and I'll show you what I mean after that. So here's my little telescope shape, just like a tube, really simple. I'm not even taping it or anything. And I'm just going to go ahead and do the same thing. So as you can see, even though the space is bigger, right, I'm not quite getting as strong of a reaction there. I'm not getting anything to happen to the top of my sandcastle. It's almost like my breath is not, the wind in this instance is not coming through enough to even change the surface. So we want to think about one reason that that might be the case. Again, just to show you the difference. Okay. So we want to take a peek at the different types of wind, maybe a more concentrated force, right? Versus a larger space with less force, because the wind that's coming through is obviously going a little more all over the place. Another thing that we want to take a look at is the water. So I'm going to do a couple drips of water, just little drops. And you can kind of see it almost has a bit of a melting effect if you want to look at it that way. So almost a little bit of melting that happens over here too. I can actually almost use my straw too as what's called a pipette. So I could just drop little bits too. So just little drops, and you can see over time that the process would be really, really slow. So this would just be raindrops, maybe ice, that type of effect. Whereas if I take more water at a time, this would be closer to the effect that we see when a wave crops up onto shore. So let me go ahead and I'll pour that a little bit more. And you can see we just are taking down that whole section of space right there. Okay. So we've talked a lot about the effects of time and how long things take to change. So with the combination of the wind, the water, and how long things take, we want to start to think to ourselves what that means about the earth around us. We also want to think as well that the fact that we're using sand instead of having a piece of hard rock changes the effects that we see as well. So whatever it is that wind and water are chipping away at affects how it's going to eventually look. So I hope that you liked that quick little inquiry, quick tutorial. It's one that you can all, I'm sure, connect a lot with, because I know in our class we've talked a lot about spending time at the beach and the ocean. So it's something that I'm sure you've seen in real life time and time again. So now when you see it, you can start to think about the connections that we have to the earth around us and earth science.